G'day guys, and today it's time to talk about a series of raids that took part in Western and Southwestern Sydney just a few days ago on Tuesday concerning 3 individuals. So first up we have Ahmed Tabor, who was charged with obtaining a financial benefit by deception. So essentially he was on unemployment benefits, Centrelink, when he didn't need to be. He must have had a job, so he's been arrested for that sort of thing. We next have Radwin Dikak from Toongabbie, who is apparently quite a prominent member of extremist Islamic people online. He's well known within those sort of circles, and he was arrested for being a member of ISIS. But most of the information we have is on a man named Ishaq ul-Matari. So I'll just read you here from the Daily Telegraph. A young Sydney man who authorities attempted to de-radicalize has been arrested over an alleged Islamic State-inspired plot to attack several targets, including police stations, the US Consulate, the New South Wales Supreme Court, and churches in the Sydney CBD. So an important piece of background information concerning ul-Matari is that last year in June he was deported from Australia to Lebanon. Now at this point in time we don't know why, but we can assume it was some sort of radical activity online or something like that, because what essentially happened is he was taken into this de-radicalization program, in which it appears, and this was entirely unknown to me until I read this story, that the Australian government is attempting to bring people who have gone overseas to fight for IS and other terroristic groups and bring them back into Australia and sort of attempt to reintegrate them. Now, why this is even being attempted is completely beyond me. You know, if someone states that they want to go overseas to fight for an organisation that explicitly is militant against the nation you are leaving, Australia, I'm sorry, but you've made a decision. You've absolutely turned your back on this nation, and I don't think we should extend you any kind of benefits at all. You've completely spat upon your host country, and I think we should do much the same. So upon being let back into Australia, the 20-year-old uni student of Western Sydney University, isn't it great to see where all those tax dollars are going off to? That is exactly why I get up at 5:30 every morning and pay my taxes, so that people like this can leech off the system and plan terroristic attacks. But anyway, obviously the authorities were monitoring him quite intensely, and they had a look at his what he was doing online, and he was trying to work out how to import firearms or explosives into Australia and that sort of thing. He was looking to travel to Afghanistan. He had applied for a visa and he had bought a ticket, and he planned to obviously join some sort of jihadist group over there. So that's an absolute bouquet of reprehensible intentions. And apparently, these are the type of people the Australian government is interested in letting back into the Australian community and attempting to reintegrate them into society. It appears this hasn't worked. But, you know, the politicians, they're not the ones that are going to get hurt by attacks like this. You know, despite the fact that he was going after the Supreme Court and churches in the CBD and stuff like that, the politicians who make these sort of decisions, they're not going to get hurt. It's always the little people like you and me. We're always the price to pay, the blood to pay for virtue signaling politician nonsense like this. It's absolutely disgusting to see my life being used as currency like this. Because, you know, I'm up in Sydney sometimes. I like to go see my friends. I've been out to where Greenacre is and that sort of thing, and I come through the train there sometimes, and you know, that's the type of places that could be attacked, and I could be killed just because some politician wants to score brownie points or something. It's it's just fucking insane. So reading on, as I mentioned before, police say it will be alleged in court that Dikak, one of the other men arrested, was prominent in the global online extremist community. Quote, the 3 men communicated on social media, mentioned Police Counter-Terrorism Assistant Commissioner McWilling, who added that they were using a number of different sites. Now, just by the by, that to me, that particular phrasing, a number of different sites, seems to indicate to me that they weren't using alt tech, because of course if they were using alt tech, it would be slandered beyond belief. So that's pretty interesting. They were probably using, as they said, a range of sites, but that probably included mainstream platforms like Facebook. Just a little something there. I don't know if it's true, but it's an interesting little linguistic game they're playing if it is. Another little interesting detail is 2 of Dikak's neighbours, who didn't want to be identified, said they couldn't believe Dikak had been arrested, but one of them said that he had been transformed after going to the Lakemba Mosque. Quote, "He was always the lovely one. He changed after he started going to that mosque." Now that's really interesting because, as you may know, Lakemba Mosque is a little bit infamous in Australia. You may recall it from Lauren Southern attempting to travel there and essentially being told that she couldn't go there, it was too dangerous, and for her own safety she was turned away by the New South Wales Police. So it's essentially a no-go zone for certain people, and it's infamous for its the content of its preachings, which obviously of some concern to some people. Also an interesting little detail there. So yeah, some sort of attack has been prevented in its infancy, which is always good to see, but again, why are these people even here in the first place? You know, if these people are, you know, regardless of where they are, they're going to be doing this extremist thing, but why are they in Australia? Why aren't they anywhere else? And the answer is that for some reasons politicians have deemed it appropriate to let known ISIS members back into the country, and explicitly here with the case of Ulmatari attempted to de-radicalize people, which is even at best that's got to be, you know, a waste of time. How are people ever going to be, you know, if you're in this sort of extremist ideology and it's backed up by a religious ideology as well, how successful is any de-radicalization going to be? I don't know, I'm not the expert here, but you think that people would be pretty ardent in their beliefs when their God is telling them to go out and do extremely violent things. And it's interesting to me, of course, you know, will this protection, this de-radicalization program, will it be extended to people not of the Islamic faith? And I haven't heard anything about that. Are we offering to take Brendan Tarrant, the infamous Christchurch shooter, are we offering to take him from the New Zealand government and attempt to de-radicalize him? No, nothing of the sort. Are we attempting to bring back anyone who's gone overseas, any white person who's gone over to Poland to be an extremist or something like that? I don't know. Are we attempting to do that? Of course we're not. We're not, because it's not politically fashionable to do this sort of thing. And that's, for me, the big takeaway here. Look, there are fucked up people all around the world doing fucked up things. If Ishaq al-Matari, if Dakak, if these people weren't here, they'd be doing it somewhere else. My problem is the government is letting them back into the country. If we're going to have a government, if we absolutely need a government, shouldn't one of its restricted roles be to protect the citizen body? And, you know, I'm no legal expert, I'm no civic expert, but letting known extremist terrorists back into the civic group doesn't seem to be in the civic group's best interest. It seems to be only in the interest of politicians who are not going to suffer the ramifications of these terrorist attacks beyond, you know, having to answer awkward questions. They're not going to have to deal with any deaths. They're not going to be the ones who are going to be killed by these terrorist attacks. Again, it is going to be people like you and me who will be killed by these events. So it's pretty obvious to me that we need to control the borders a bit better, folks. Why are these people in our country? What are they doing here? Why are they, you know, leeching off some of the benefits of my labour? You know, I'm getting up in the morning and going to work, whilst this person's a uni student collecting my taxpayer cash. Explicitly in the case of this third bloke, he's, you know, falsely on welfare. Well, thanks, mate. You can collect my fucking tax checks anytime you like. Why are we wasting time and money attempting to de-radicalize people? Why are we risking people's lives attempting to de-radicalize people? It's utter fucking madness. That, you know, we're meant to live in this first world country where we have this, you know, post-enlightenment view of the world where we like to debate people, and, you know, that's fallen apart with postmodernism a bit, but we're still mostly talking to one another. But you know, there are people here who are doing extremely violent things, and we treat them with kid gloves because they're not white. That's basically how it goes. Again, are we getting Mr. Brendan Tarrant back from New Zealand in order to de-radicalize him, I should say? No, we're absolutely not. We're happy to let him just be thrown in a jail cell, as he should, for the rest of his life. But no, we treat certain groups with kid gloves because we're afraid of being called racist. Well, I'm not afraid of being called racist. The term has been stretched so far it's basically meaningless anymore. It essentially means you disagreed with someone who wasn't white. So that's why I'm not afraid of being called a racist anymore, because it's such a fucking meaningless term. But yeah, we need to seriously ask questions. Who the fuck's coming into our country? We need to seriously ask questions about what the fuck the government is doing. Like, Jesus, guys, attempting to de-radicalize militant fucking terrorists, members of IS, and bringing them back into the country. What the fuck? Anyway, that's the situation as it is. 6 raids across western and southwestern Sydney, 3 arrests, 2 linked to Islamic State, 1 planning to carry out a terrorist attack before travelling overseas, another one falsely on welfare. He's probably linked to them in some other way. They're all communicating on social media, so he may have additional charges laid against them. It's despicable. I don't understand why these people in the country, and I'm pretty fucking mad at the government for letting them in. Thanks all for sticking around, and have a good one.